performance in real estate, can it really serve as a bellwether or an indicator to whether people trust the economic management of the nation? Our next guest believes so. Femi Aiki, co-founder and CEO of Foodlocker, joins us now. Femi, thank you for joining us. And it was your post, actually, that caught my attention on the conversation going on within the sector with practitioners and realtors saying that over the past 3 years, their sales has declined significantly. And you are saying that what we are seeing in the real estate sector is a signal of our broader economic health. Tell us how so.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much, Joanna. Essentially, the real estate sector reflects what happens within the economy for several reasons. Number one is the size of the sector. So typically, the real estate sector would cover 10 to 18%, 18% usually in places like the US. But now in Nigeria, it's about more than 13% of the economy. So if the real estate sector sneezes, the whole economy catches a cold. The other part of it is that the real estate sector has a multiplier effect on the economy. So what it means is if you build a property, you probably have to also buy some furniture, buy some white goods, buy some electronics, or put in some domestic services into that property. So it has multiplier effects. So if the real estate sector has problems or is booming, then you would actually see the consequence in other sectors. The other thing is it also reflects macroeconomic reactions. So for example, if you have tightening of monetary policy or fiscal policy, or you have exchange rate policies that are changing, or subsidy regimes that are being optimized, you would actually see the effect in the real estate sector. People need to raise money for them to be able to build property, so that's like interest rate side. Then from the fiscal side, when taxes are charged by governments, then it means more money is mopped up from the private sector or from consumers into the hands of government, and that then means that there's a reduction in the real estate performance. The other thing you need to look at is it drives employment. So real estate, it's a massive construction industry, construction-based industry. So it drives a lot of employment, even for services, as well as looking at things like rising prices. So for example, when people feel property prices are rising, feel wealthier, and they want to spend more money, when they see that property prices are falling, they actually feel poorer, and they probably want to spend less money. So it's a mix of several signals. So the real estate sector itself actually gives an indication of whether the economy is doing well or it's not doing well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how everything is intertwined. I have Iwinla Mustafa here with me, a real estate surveyor and valuer. And, I've heard you say that real estate in Nigeria is a luxury, right? So can one really use a luxury item as a yardstick or indicator of economic health?
Okay, so very importantly, we must say that real estate in Nigeria is not ultimately luxury.
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be luxury. It is a necessity. Because whether you like it or not, as a person, as a people, whatever you're doing on real estate. The office you occupy is on real estate. The house you live in is on real estate. Where you do your business from is on real estate. So it's not really luxury, it's a necessity. So whether we can now use that to say the economy is doing well or not, yes, we can use it to say the economy is doing well or not, because when people cannot afford real estate, when people cannot pay rent, that means something is wrong with the economy. When people cannot buy property in a year as a realtor, if you don't sell at least one property to one client, nobody's buying. As a developer, you have 20 terraces built somewhere, nobody's buying one in a whole year. That's an indicator that the economy is not doing well. So it's an indicator to let us know if we're doing well as a country economically or not. But that conversation, is very, very entangled. We must understand that the real estate sector is a very integral sector to this country. Indeed. It contributes about 5% to our GDP, and that's why the government, even this current administration, is talking about doing so much about in real estate. The government is talking about the Renewed Hope Estate project that's going to build about 100,000 housing units in each state. That's a project. So it's just something that we need as a people. It's not just Nigeria, globally. So that's why if you go to other clients, the UK, the America, they don't joke with real estate, because everything they do surrounds real estate.
Indeed, we need to take it more seriously. And finally, I'll come to you, Olufemi. Where would you say the shift within the sector has occurred? And, while you're saying real estate is indicating that our economy isn't doing so well, we are seeing GDP, it appears to be growing. The numbers, they indicate significant growth within the sector, overtaking oil and gas, the third strongest contributor to GDP. So how do you now marry that with what you're saying about, real estate showing the poor economic health of our nation, when looking at the numbers, the GDP, it seems to be contributing more and more?
Thank you very much. I think there are a number of reasons. The first reason is there was a rebasing in 2025. Essentially, when you rebase, what you're basically doing is you're changing the base prices by which you're using to determine, or the base rate by which you're using to determine the strength of the goods or services that are produced in a country. So in addition, you're also adding in some other factors. So for example, the real estate sector had historically not considered valuation as a factor for GDP calculation. So they brought in the valuations. Then they talked about things like brokerage. They brought those in. Then they talked about informal real estate. They brought those in. Then rentals as well. They brought those in. As soon as that happened, you would ultimately see an increase in the contribution of that sector in the GDP, because now you have more factors that were not historically counted. Then you had also increase in the kind of quality of data and actually in the efficiency of data collection for that sector. So you would actually see that in the GDP numbers. The other part of it, which is probably a very interesting conversation, is actually that essentially, if you want to calculate the value of a particular sector, so the value is a product of price and volume. It is obvious that the prices have gone up based on inflation, the construction cost, based on labor rates increase, based on exchange rates, etc. So the price has gone up. Then, if you look at the volume side, the other thing you would have noticed is there's been a significant rural to urban migration, which means that more people now need real estate in places where the volume is being properly captured. So which then means that you're going to see an uptick in the GDP numbers. But you cannot say there was a boom in that sector. That's where the conversation is. It was really interesting that your panelists on the last session actually spoke from different perspectives. Some were saying they're down with their sales. Some were saying they're up. It's actually because that's actually how real estate is. It's multifaceted, multilateral. You have development side, you have the rental side, you have even under the development side, you also have different categories, luxury, commercial, etc. Under the rental side, you also have multiple categories. So you cannot say that, because the GDP number actually grew in Naira terms, that it means that the sector grew. The other part of it is, why don't you convert that GDP number? So I think the last number we had was 41 trillion as of 2024. In 2023, I think it was initially 10 trillion and then it moved to 30. When you convert that into dollars, at the exchange rate of those times, you can easily see that in dollar terms it wasn't significant.
Interesting. It's interesting to see what's happening there. So the numbers may be slightly deceiving, especially with devaluation and so much more. But thank you so much for your insight and perspective. Look forward to having you in some other time. Femi Aiki, co-founder and CEO of Foodlocker.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.